Today I'm going to talk about how to use web code overrides to help you in your UX design process. Why is this important? Well, Jen Simmons of Mozilla has demonstrated to us that in this responsive world, we need to start being more inventive with our designs. CSS3 provides us with amazing power to create beautiful new layouts, interactions, and animations. These need to be designed. Available on the web are 3 event apart talks Jen has given, which demonstrate the power of these techniques. Inspired by magazine graphic design, she's explored how to bring these techniques into today's websites. She uses simple CodePen environments to play and experiment with the code to work out what is possible. I thoroughly recommend watching them. I'm sure as a designer you will be inspired. She entreats us all to start building experiments for our own design contexts. Getting designers to code seems to be a controversial topic. We don't want to be unicorns. We already have a huge skill set we have to know and understand. Or maybe we need someone to build us designer-friendly tools that would do the coding automatically for us. I would argue that this is not the case. We aren't being asked to be developers. We are being asked to play with code, and this is already within our skill set. The gift of a designer is experimentation. This is just a new medium for us to play with, and the simple tools we need are available right now. Experimenting with CodePen is great for testing out novel ideas, but what we need are methods that help us with our everyday design. And often these are not new concepts, but progressive changes to a current design. For me, this is where web code overrides comes in. In the past month, I've been making web overrides to a live web app I'm working on. Being able to see my design changes in play in our real system has been transformative. It is fundamentally changing my design process. So how do we get started? I just demonstrated how I can bring up the Chrome developer tools. I just right-click on any element. Here I'm looking at my live WordPress blog and select Inspect. Firefox and Chrome both have slightly different but extremely powerful development tools. We access them on any web page we visit with a simple right-click. I can click on the Inspect tool in the top left, and then as I hover over the elements on a page, I can directly see the HTML that is related to it. This bar here also allows me to travel up and down the hierarchy of elements in a page. This means we can quickly see the structure of how every page is built and how the HTML elements relate to each other. You can edit this HTML by right-clicking on an element in the inspector window and selecting Edit as HTML. So you can add new elements or write any HTML you wish here. The CSS for each element is shown here. CSS is the view part of the HTML, CSS, JavaScript triad. Here you define everything about what you see. So the HTML is the structure or the data model, and the CSS is how it looks, the eye candy if you will. This is the part designers need to get excited about. Editing colours in CSS is very easy. I imagine most of us have played with this. But we can also add CSS properties in the inspector. Let's change the font now. I can find this a little fiddly, but it comes with practice. The tool provides autocomplete, which I find very useful. The third part of the triad is, of course, JavaScript. In the Chrome developer tools, this is shown in the source files. Here the JavaScript is shown in minified form. Selecting on the brackets at the bottom of the inspector makes it easier to read. JavaScript is the controller. This is where all the standard programming stuff goes on. JavaScript can be used for things like adding new elements to the HTML on the fly, checking if elements have data in them, and then hiding them if empty. Anything that requires a little logic. You can add JavaScript code to the files in the Sources tab, or you can use the console, which is like a command line prompt. You can type and test out snippets of code here. So if I went and looked up how to add text to an HTML element in Google, I can usually find exactly what I want fairly quickly. If I copy and paste the JavaScript and then add my div ID and the text I want to add, it would look like this. Pressing return runs the code. So here we can see that I've overridden the HTML, CSS and JavaScript on my web page, but there are some issues. Let's say I close down the editor and then go to refresh the page. Just like that, all my hard work disappears and it returns the live version. We need some way to persist or save the code of our new design. Persisting overrides is something that Google is building into its development tools. If we head back to the Sources tab, there are some settings that allow you to save changes to a local file. There is another feature called Workspaces, which allows you to persist files if you have a local development environment set up. There is also a Snippets tab where you can save snippets of JavaScript, which can be quite useful. You run the code by selecting the file and pressing return. However, for my purposes as a designer, this all feels very heavy. I just want to play with my changes in the same way that I can in CodePen. And luckily, there are some tools out there that are more of this type. The first one I'm going to show you is a Chrome extension called User CSS. It provides you with an editor where you can put your CSS changes. I really like it because it's so simple. Let's make some changes in Google Developer Tools to Jen Simmons' website. Let's add some blue text in here. Each time I make a change in the DevTools, I can simply copy and paste my change to User CSS. Or, of course, as my CSS improves, I can type my changes directly into the editor in code. Now when I refresh the browser, my changes are sticky. I've saved my design for future use. One of my favourite features is this switch, which allows you to turn off your design. So when I'm demoing a particular change to a colleague on the live tool, and they start talking about how great it used to be, I can quickly show them the reality of the old design with exactly the same data on display. This is very powerful. I spend a lot of time flipping that button on and off when I'm designing to check my design is actually an improvement. User CSS saves overrides for any number of different URLs. It is a great little design tool. I have a colleague who's colorblind who's used it to make many websites useful for himself. However, what if we want to do something more complicated? What about our HTML and our JavaScript overrides? And what if we have more than one design option we want to test out? The second tool I'm going to show addresses just that. It is a Chrome extension called Web Override. I can only run one of these extensions at a time. Web Override allows you to save multiple files and turn on and off different design choices. It also has an HTML, CSS and JavaScript editor, just like CodePen does. Override does require refresh after every change, which is probably why I still do a lot of my experimenting in Chrome Developer Tools and then copy the changes across. However, the ability to mix and match parts of my design is supremely powerful. This tool really has the potential to change my workflow. Now, sometimes rather than starting my designs in Sketch or XD, I make initial changes in CSS, and then I screen grab the shot and move to my graphic design choice for the things that I'm unable to code. This has been particularly useful in places where I have lots of data to convey. The time saving has been considerable, and I'm also presenting real and appropriate data in my prototypes. Playing with code is an additional set of skills that simply adds to my toolset. What I've shown you is the very basics of what you will need to do to make this useful. I'm not saying that it's not challenging. It will be, and often frustrating, but so can learning our current tools. That challenge is part of the fun. I won't be giving up on tools like InVision Studio or Balsamiq anytime soon. They are my tools for thinking about designs. But playing with code is fast becoming equally valuable.
If you're interested in learning more, there are lots of great web code training videos out there. The Mozilla reference materials are excellent. Stack Overflow is your friend for asking questions.
This has been a brief overview about the power that some simple coding can bring to UX design. I'm still very much in the early stages of using it, but it feels exciting. I look forward to sharing more. Of course, we have to be careful we don't go back to the 80s. CSS3 is a powerful set of tools for doing appalling things in the wrong hands. But that is exactly why designers need to engage in this change. We need to be right in there, creating beautiful designs. If you made it this far, thanks for your attention.